Whew. Our next speaker is going to join us to talk about the power of creative expression. Please welcome to the stage Leo Laporte.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. It's good to see you. Now, I have 18 minutes, so I'm going to start my timer here. You'll forgive me. That's what I'm holding here. This guy's just sitting here. He's not actually doing anything. I'm so glad to see you today. I was really glad to see Mohammed's presentation because that's exactly what I'm taking off from. I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the Internet. And the Internet is an opportunity for all of us to communicate. And that's what I'm here to talk about today. Just for those of you who don't know me, I'm a broadcaster, an old media guy. For 32 years, I did radio and TV, newspapers, magazines. I've written 13 books, all old media stuff. And, you know, that's been a great living. But in the last 5 years, something's changed for me. I've discovered the new media. And I almost feel like somebody who's got one foot on the dock of old media. It's been nice and solid. And then another foot on the boat of new media, and it's starting to sail. And I feel like I'm being split a little bit. But I'm about to make that leap over to new media, and I want to invite you to do the same thing because it is the most democratizing force in the world. It's exactly as Mohammed said. It's a chance for all of us to communicate, and the world really needs new media right now. It really needs for us to speak together. I have a little podcast network. I work out of Northern California, a little Victorian-era cottage. It's all nice paneled wood, but it's loaded with technology. I do about 20 podcasts a week. I do about 30 hours of live video. I've built essentially an internet television and radio station in this little cottage in the middle of nowhere in Northern California. And I reach an audience that's completely global. It's all over the world, a much bigger audience than I ever reached on television or radio or magazines or newspapers. And it's been a wonderful experience for me. It's really given me a chance to meet a lot of people, and a lot of people a chance to hear what I have to say. But I don't want to own it. I want to give it away. I want all of you to be doing the same thing. I was at a dinner party about a month ago, and the hosts had a really neat idea. They hired a piano player, and they got us all to sing at this dinner party. I did not sing. I decided to avoid that, but everybody else did. And it was a remarkable experience, and I was thinking, boy, this must have been how it used to be. How people used to entertain themselves, how we used to get together. We'd read stories, or we'd sing songs, or we'd do skits. We'd entertain ourselves. And about 100 years ago, all of that changed when mass media intruded into our homes, and television and radio started to entertain us, and professionals started to do it, and we stopped doing it for ourselves. We gave it away. We let them do all the entertaining, and we stopped. Now, maybe it's different in your home, but I have to say, certainly in the United States, most people spend, the average is about 6 or 7 hours a day watching television. Just passively consuming entertainment, not making anything of their own. Clay Shirky, who's a wonderful philosopher of media, in his very highly recommended essay called Here Comes Everybody, says that what really happened is that the information age was so overwhelming that we all just retreated into our basements to watch Baywatch and just give up. You know, it was a way of giving up. I'm not sure that's what happened. I think really in a way we got seduced by mass media, and it has put us to sleep, but it's a chance now for us to wake up from that. You know, the two things happened. Technology's changed our lives, you know, for the last several millennia, and technology was what brought mass media to us. You know, 100 years ago, with the invention of radio and then of television, everything changed. When radio was first created, Marconi thought it was a one-to-one communications medium. He thought it was really about, you know, I'll call you ship to shore. And a guy named David Sarnoff was a telegraph operator who even tells a story of how he was the telegraph operator who received the news that the Titanic was sinking. There's some question about that. He loved to tell stories. But Sarnoff wrote a very famous memo in 1916 that said, you know, there's more to radio than just me talking to another guy. This could be a music hall, a concert in a box. We could put these in every home in the nation and eventually in every home in the world. And the Marconi Corporation said, yeah, crazy. Forget about it. So Sarnoff went off and started a company of his own called RCA, and within a year sold hundreds of millions of radios. They gave away free concerts, free music. They put it in every home in the nation. It was the fastest growing medium ever. Television had somewhat the same success. In fact, Sarnoff was very much involved in that. It took over our lives. Mass media was incredibly successful. It was successful for another reason, because right about that time, a fellow named Edward Bernays founded the modern science of public relations and marketing. He was born in Vienna. His uncle was Sigmund Freud. And Bernays said, you know, if we would just use old Uncle Siggy's ideas, we could convince people to buy more stuff. We could convince people to change their ideas. He brought Freudian psychology into advertising with devastating effect. It was very, very effective. He's famous, for instance, one of his clients was Lucky Strikes, the cigarettes. And there was a problem. Lucky Strikes said, you know, only men smoke in public. Women won't smoke in public. We've got to somehow convince women to smoke in public. So Edward Bernays said, no problem. Hired a bunch of young ladies, attractive young ladies, to march in a big parade in New York City around the turn of the century, smoking what he called torches of freedom. And he tied it to feminism, to liberation, to being able to smoke in public. And it was a huge success, and women all over the country started smoking cigarettes. He was the guy who created, I don't know if you use this term in your advertising, 4 out of 5 doctors, have you seen that in the ads? 4 out of 5 doctors recommend. He got hired by the bacon producers. Now, everybody knows bacon's not good for you, but what he did is he went to doctors and he said, well, wouldn't it be better if people had hearty breakfasts? He surveyed 5,000 doctors and got them to say, yes, people need to eat hearty bacon and egg breakfasts. And he said 4 out of 5 doctors recommend bacon for breakfast. A huge success. So this guy really pioneered modern advertising. And what did this kind of advertising need? It needed mass numbers. It was effective. The more people you could reach, the better. So along comes this new way of advertising. You know, before then, advertising was really a list of features and benefits. You should use our product because it's this, this, and this. It was very straightforward. But now, all of a sudden, advertising is, don't let your friends smell you coming, or, you know, you might have bad breath, nobody will want to kiss you. It used these fears, these primal fears to get people to do stuff, and it needed a mass market. Along comes mass media, television and radio. It was a perfect marriage. And for the last 100 years, they've completely dominated the psyche. Well, I worked in that medium. I know how it works, and it really is designed exactly that way. But something is changing, and it's changed for me. I started doing podcasts about 5 years ago, and we started doing these podcasts aimed at people who are interested in technology. I do gadgets, I do open source, I do Macintosh and Windows and Linux. It's a whole network of podcasts, and we reach millions of people. It's grown very, very fast because we're authentic, we're genuine, we are enthusiastic about it, and most importantly, because we treat our audience as intelligent. This is something the mass media couldn't do, because advertisers were very afraid of intelligent people. They felt like, if you're intelligent, we can't seduce you with our messages. You might think 4 out of 5 doctors recommend bacon, and they don't want you thinking. So advertising was really aimed at the lowest common denominator. Mass media was aimed at the lowest common denominator, and it was vastly successful because of it. Unfortunately, we're smart. And I talk to smart people. And all of a sudden, advertisers are realizing that's who they really want. The new media is working better for them than the old media. If you look at Google and Facebook, these advertisers are able to buy specific audiences of people. They're able to target them directly. They're able to advertise to people who want to buy their product, and it works better than tricking people. Tricking people has stopped working. We're getting wiser. All of this great internet stuff that Muhammad was talking about is actually educating people. And so this form of advertising just doesn't work as well as it used to. So it's very exciting times. Advertisers are coming to me saying, we want an intelligent audience who wants to hear an authentic message, but we don't want to buy 18 million people. We want to buy this very thin slice of people. We want to aim at people who are going to buy our product. And they're buying Facebook and Google for the same reason, because they get a very specific targeted audience. And they're starting to move away from these mainstream forms of broadcasting. So it's a great opportunity, because it means all of a sudden there's funding and support for grassroots broadcasting, for podcasting. And that's what I do. And that's what I want to encourage you to do, to blog, to podcast, to create videos on YouTube. We're suddenly seeing an explosion of user-created content everywhere. You've all seen it, haven't you? But we've been trained for our whole lifetimes to sit down and shut up, to be in an environment like this, where one person talks and you listen. And it's fundamentally undemocratic. See, the problem with mass media is it's very expensive to create. Only the person who can afford to buy a printing press or buy a television station or a radio station, a music recording studio, could make this content for the last 100 years. That's what's really changing. We really have two things that are happening here. We have the low cost of production. The digital technology has made it possible for anybody with a computer, a microphone, to create a radio show. If you've got a video camera, you can create a YouTube video and be seen not just in your country, but all over the world by millions and millions of people. If you've got internet access, you can write a blog. And instead of having to go to a publisher hat in hand saying, I want a chance to have this book be heard, and then somebody gets to say yes or no to it, you just do it. You go out there, you go to a site like Lulu, and you publish that book, or you publish it on a blog, and so many more people can read it. So it's a huge opportunity here because the cost of producing media has disappeared. It's gone to virtually nothing. That's one of the things that digital revolution has brought us that's so exciting. The other side of it is distribution is now widely available. Yochai Benkler, in his book, The Wealth of Nations, estimates, or Wealth of Networks, I should say, estimates that there are about 1 billion people worldwide who have access to the tools and the internet so that sufficient to do television and radio, to do their own programming, their own shows. Everybody in here probably has access to those kinds of tools. So all of a sudden, it's cheap to do it. And, I have to say that the old media is fighting back. These guys who had the money to build the radio and TV stations don't like the idea that not only is the audience moving away from them, but advertisers are moving away from them. They're fighting back. Just yesterday in Beijing, big conference, about 300 old media types, Rupert Murdoch and Tom Curley. Rupert Murdoch, and Tom Curley's the head of the Associated Press, both stood up and said, Google's ripping us off. How dare Google publish links to our articles? How dare bloggers talk about the stuff that we have spent so much time and money to put together on our newspapers and in our Associated Press feeds, and we're going to shut them down. And I was stunned. I thought, these people really don't understand what's happening, do they? They come from this old world where they had the monopoly because they had the means. They had the voice. They got to choose who spoke. They got to choose who read. They totally controlled the media. And they want to do exactly the same thing to Google. They said, how dare they publish links to our articles? And I thought, are they crazy? Don't they know how much traffic Google is driving to them? Don't they understand that if they're no longer seen on Google, they disappear in the modern era? They don't understand. They think you're going to continue to buy their newspapers. Or Rupert Murdoch thinks that, well, okay, maybe you won't buy the newspaper, but you'll certainly buy access to my internet site. No, you won't. So it's stunning to me to see the same they sound very much like the record executives did in the U.S. about 5 years ago when they said, you're stealing our music. Now, I don't know if they do it here, but when you go to a movie in the States, you've paid $10, $13 to see this movie in the U.S., and they run an ad saying, stop stealing our movies. I just paid $13. I'm not stealing your movies. They think of us, their customers, as thieves. Fine. See you later. Bye-bye. It's the end of the line for this old media. They no longer control the means of production. We all can do it. They no longer control the distribution. We have access to a much better distribution network than anybody. We have access to the internet, which is fully global. So it's really important that we take advantage of this opportunity that is offered to us now, that we go out and be heard, because we've been trained to sit down and shut up, and I think it's now time to start standing up and being heard. So I come here to you to tell you times have changed. The opportunity is here. Stop being a passive consumer. Start telling the stories. Start singing the songs. Start playing the music and doing the skits. Start putting your word out there. You might at first feel, I remember when I first started blogging, nobody wants to read what I have to say. How egotistical is this? It feels a little strange. because we're so used to the professionals doing it. It's your time. It's our time. It's a chance for us to speak. And the value of us speaking is so huge because people want to hear authentic voices. They want to hear real people. They're tired of seeing perfectly coiffed and made-up actors tell the stories. It's our time to tell the stories. And if we all tell our story, and if every one of us goes out there and creates content, it's a real chance for us to have peace in this world, for us, as Muhammad said, to learn about every person, every culture, and to no longer see that culture as the enemy. It's so important that we all do it. It's much more important, frankly, that you all do it than that those of us in the States who have controlled the media for so long do. You know, we've had our chance, and now it's really it's your chance to get out there and to start speaking and to let the word go forth. So that's all I have to say. I just want to encourage you to do it and encourage you to find a computer and start writing a blog. If it's Twitter, go ahead and start doing that. If it's YouTube, start making a video. Somebody once said to me, well, wait a minute, Leo, if a billion people start publishing stuff, who's going to know what's good? Who's going to know what's great? How are we going to, it's a sea of information. The science fiction author Theodore Sturgeon once very famously said, 80% of everything is junk. He was a very cranky man. And I think maybe he was even an optimist. Maybe 90% of it. Let's say 99% of everything is junk. That's fair. But if 1 in 100 isn't, that's huge. You know, Muhammad just pointed out how many videos on YouTube. Every minute on YouTube, 10 hours of video is uploaded. They just crossed 1 billion views a day. 1 billion people a day are looking at videos on YouTube. Well, if only 1% of that is good, do the math for me. How many is that? That's 10 million great videos. That's out of every 10 hours. That's 6 minutes a minute uploaded of great stuff. That's more than you can watch in a lifetime. It's 6 times more than you can watch in a lifetime. So don't hold back. Don't worry that there are going to be too many voices. The good stuff will rise. It is now a meritocracy. We've moved out of this era of, the rich get to say what gets heard and what's said, the people who own the printing presses, the people who determine freedom of the press. Now we all get to. And we all want to hear your voice. So I come to you as a former broadcaster, as a newborn podcaster, saying, let's all do this. I invite you to join in and create some content. We want to hear what you have to say. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Leo. That was great.
Yeah. Whew.